Fructus naturalis. Fructus naturalis is natural trees and bushes and plants. Now, there's Fructus industrialis, which is fruits and vegetables. Okay, but we're not talking about those. We're talking about just your normal, everyday grass, trees, bushes. Those fall under real property. What does that mean? It means if I sell a property, you don't get to take all the grass, Mr. Seller, again, unless it was in the contract. It is a fixture and it automatically conveys. Okay, so I'm expecting the grass to be there on settlement day. Same thing with trees, same thing with bushes. You don't get a right to dig up all the bushes and trees. And trust me, I've had a lot of sellers try to do this, and I tell them, no. Go buy yourself a new tree when you get there, okay? Because I gotta tell you, you'll probably kill the poor thing anyway, so it's best if you just leave it there. So again, Fructus naturalis is real property. It stays with the property. So Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, if you really want to dig up that tree, I suggest that you do it now and put it in a pot, because everybody knows pots. My parents are actually selling their house right now, and they have a bunch of banana trees. Why my parents, they have just a bunch of banana trees in their backyard. And they're here in Northern Virginia. Did you think you could grow a banana tree in Virginia? You can. I had no idea, but there's certain ways to do it. And my mom will figure out anything when it comes to plants. And I told her before we put it on the market, if you're going to take them things, you got to dig them up now. So my son went over there and dug up her banana trees and put them all in pots. And of course, I added a note in the listing. Anything in pots does not convey. Just another reminder, that's a given under the law. However, I just want to throw that out there. Anything in pots does not convey. She wanted to take her banana trees, but she left some there. So they did get some. And she said she would explain to them how to take care of them. If they wanted them, if they don't want them, she'll take those too. But she left a couple and was taking the rest. It's so strange. Okay, look, people, that's all I can say. People, even my own mother, she's like, I'm taking my banana trees. And I'm like, I can't even believe you have banana trees. Like, who has banana trees? That's awesome. And they're beautiful. Oh my God, they're beautiful. Every summer they come on big and beautiful. And it's crazy. And then she chops them down in the winter and puts a bucket over top, like a big flower pot, and covers them with mulch. And then they last all winter. And then she takes it off come spring, and then it starts growing like crazy again. So she's had them for years and years and years, and it's crazy. But it is what it is. People, they have plants that they want to take. And you got to let people know this up front. So that was my suggestion, that she left a few. Because I'm like, a lot of times when people see these big, beautiful trees, they're going to want some, right? So look, she took 3 and left 2. So there was and then she left 2 in the center. So they're really pretty. I told her, I said, a lot of times people are going to want them. She's like, I don't care. I mean, I can leave them. I can get another one if we need to. She goes, I just, these are unusual plants, and just probably most people are going to be like, what the heck is this? And she goes, and I would like to take them with me, but I don't have to. So I told her, I said, all right, let's put the 3 in pots, and let's leave the other 2 and I'll put it in the notes, and we'll leave it at the house, that if they want to, if they want to keep them, great. If they don't, we'll dig them up and take them too. But, we'll explain it to them and see what they want to do. I've had other sellers that are like, I'm taking everything. And I'm like, oh my God, if you dig some of this stuff up, it's going to die. And they're like, I don't care. I spent a lot of money on it. All right, so let's just kill it. Yeah. Okay. That sounds like a great idea. So if I can't have it, nobody else can. I mean, I don't get this whole thing. I mean, for me, I love the plant so much that I would rather it live and me not have it than to try to take it when I know for a fact it's not a transplantable plant. Okay. So Fructus naturalis, it falls under real property. Okay. It is the normal everyday plants, and they are supposed to stay. Now, remember, there's fructus industrialis, which is fruit and vegetables, which we're going to get to soon. Those do not stay. Okay. Now, if your property has water rights. Okay. If it has water through the middle, front, back, sides, if it has water, like a pond style, anywhere on the property, anywhere in your boundary lines, if there's water on it, there is water rights. The type of right depends on the type of water. Okay, so there's two different types that I need you to know. The first one is called riparian rights. Riparian rights, just think of that R, running. It's running water. It's a river or stream. It's going somewhere. Okay, so if your land crosses over a river or stream, you have riparian rights. Whereas if it's not going anywhere, it's a lake or an ocean. Remember, everything runs to the ocean, but the ocean doesn't go anywhere. Yes, it does move, but it doesn't go anywhere. Neither do lakes. They sit there stagnant. Okay, those are called littoral rights. So I always think of the lake, LL, and I always think of the river, riparian, running, riparian. That's how I remember riparian versus littoral. Okay, so now, I don't want you to assume that if your client's buying a property that it goes into the water. Just because it ends at the water, it might legitimately end at the water. It might legitimately end, and there might not be any water rights. So never assume you know the actual boundary lines of the land, because you may not, and you don't want to tell someone they have water rights when then they don't. I'll give you a good example of this. I myself, it was probably about 6-7 years ago. I really wanted a waterfront property. I gotta be honest with you, I'm still looking for the right one. Isn't that terrible? I mean, I'm not picky, but with this property that I'm looking for, I'm pretty daggone picky. Okay. And I'm still looking for it, but I found a property that I was so happy with. It was kind of like a peninsula. It was like 3 sides were covered with water. And this is here in Virginia. It was actually in Tappahannock. And I like the Tappahannock area. It's a nice area. And the house, the whole top floor had burnt off. It was a burnt up, destroyed house. And I was like, I don't care. I'll rebuild. Okay, I'm not concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is the piece of property. I want the right property. Okay, because that's something I can't change. The house I can change, the property I can't. So excited about this piece of property, guys. And I went down and I took a look at it, and I was super excited. And then I asked the owner one question: how much of the water, because I knew it was a lake, but it's a huge lake. I knew it was littoral. How much does the property go into the water? And the owner said it doesn't. I said, so there's no water rights? And they said, no. I said, well, who owns the whole lake? One house. One house owns this entire huge lake? Yes. Oh, okay. And the owner goes on to tell me, but he's a really nice guy, and he lets everybody use it, and nobody's ever had any problems. Well, guys, I don't like that. And I'm going to tell you why. What happens if this really nice guy sells to a jerk and decides he wants to charge everybody or not let anybody use it? Or what happens if this really nice guy dies and his children are a bunch of jerks? I don't want my life decided by whether someone's nice or not. So I said to them, I don't like that. I want water rights. I want the right to use the water. I don't want anyone to tell me that I can't use it. So I didn't buy the property. Now, I've had several situations since then where my clients have been in the same situation, and I've explained it to them. Does this bother you? And believe it or not, all of them said, no, I don't care. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to put this in writing because I don't want you coming back to me later but you're sure that if this doesn't bother you, then it doesn't bother me. I just need you to understand you don't have any water rights whatsoever. But of course, everyone in the area, which you're free to talk to everybody, says that you can use it, but there's nothing in writing saying you have the right to use it. Someone could tell you no. And my clients didn't care, but I personally did. I guess because I've seen too much. You know what I mean? If you've seen too much, you kind of just, you know people a little bit more. You hear these situations constantly. You're like, nah, I don't want to get involved. I have too much going on in my life. I don't need anything extra. So ask your clients. Does it matter? Does it not? But one thing we don't want to do is assume. We never want to assume, because that would be a problem. And by the way, on your test, there's a question about an oceanfront property. And the answer is littoral rights. Okay, so I need you, that's why I focus on ocean every time, because I want to make sure you get that right. All right, prior appropriation, not on your test, not to worry about it. First time, first and right. Once upon a time, long time ago, people didn't have the fancy irrigation systems that they do today. And so they had to water their crops. How would they water their crops? What they would do, they would take water from nearby sources and divert some of that water into a small stream that would then water their property and their crops. Today, we don't have these problems. So prior appropriation really isn't used, and it's not even on your test, so don't worry too much about it, but it just means at this point, if I get in the lake first, it's my turn. Okay? But don't worry too much about this. I do need you to know littoral and riparian though. Accretion. Oh my God. Accretion and erosion there's a lot of questions on accretion and erosion. I don't know why. Like, to me, that's the dumbest thing ever. Why is accretion and erosion? And why is this so messed up? I don't know. But accretion, this is the accumulation of soil on owner's property caused by the movement of water. Something happened here. So let's take a house at the top of a hill and a house at the bottom of the hill. The house at the top of the hill is losing land, and the house at the bottom is gaining. So the top is suffering from erosion, and the top is gaining through accretion. I don't know why this matters so much, but there's quite a few questions on this, which should be very easy as long as you know the answers. Again, accretion and erosion, you should know what accretion and erosion is. The only time I would use this in real life, and I have used it in real life, is, for example, when I'm like out showing houses with a buyer, and the buyer notices an area of the lawn that is not growing grass. And sometimes the slope is so gradual and so little that you can barely even tell. And they're like, why isn't this area growing grass? And I say, erosion. And they're like, like, tell me why. And I'm like, because there's a little slope going right here. So there's a couple ways to fix that if you'd like to fix it. And the most common one is just to build up. So for example, like I tell them about my old backyard. All right. So before I moved into the house that I'm in, I had an N unit townhouse, and I say N unit because it had a little bit larger of a yard, which is why I'm telling you the story. Every year I lived in that property, I would have to replant grass, and every morning I would go out there with my hose, and I always wanted my grass to be gorgeous, and I couldn't get it. And I was so frustrated. And I finally got smart, and I put a level of bricks, and it was just one row of bricks. That's how gradual, how tiny this little slope was. I put one level of bricks all around the back fence. And then I filled it in with soil, put a lot of grass seed. And then the next 3 years I lived there, I didn't have any problems at all. I had a beautiful backyard full of beautiful grass. Building up, it's called terracing. And so I tell people, hey, you can always terrace it. Now, the bigger the slope, the higher the terrace has to be, and the more money it's going to cost. Okay, but it's possible. Okay, they can even do it in tiers. You'll see, like, a lot of people with really steep backyards, they'll have tiers. Like, they'll have like 3 or 4 different tiered areas, and they'll flatten them out, which is really nice, giving you more backyard space. Okay. So again, when you're buying those builder lots, a lot of times people don't know how to read those plats. And what ends up happening is they buy with massive or even minor slopes, and then they're really unhappy because they have to pay for the terracing. And I'm like, this is why it pays to consult a professional realtor, because I would have spotted that and told you immediately. Hey, this is going to have a big old slope in your backyard. Are you okay with that? Because I would not be okay with that. These are things a builder won't tell you. This is why it pays to consult a professional. All right, so guys, accretion and erosion, you know what it is. Okay, soil's building up, accretion. Soil's running away, that's erosion. Okay, appurtenance. The word appurtenance just means to run with the land. What does it mean? If there's an appurtenance, it means that it comes with it. So it could be for example, it could be an easement. And an easement is the right of another to cross your land. So if it's an appurtenant easement, it's going to stay forever. Okay, you can't get rid of it. Well, there are ways to get rid of it, but it's much harder to get rid of. Okay, speaking of appurtenance, easements, here's again, the easement usually means the right to cross another's land. There's a couple different types of easements, and we're going to go through them all so that you can understand the differences and how they work and how I've even used them in real life. Okay, like I use easements on a regular basis. Okay, sometimes we have to add easements. Okay,